Brought to you by CGTN Europe.
Hello and welcome to The Agenda. I'm Stephen Cole, and this week we're getting a view from Russia. Andrei Kelin became the Russian ambassador to the United Kingdom in November 2019, and in that relatively short time in office, he's already had to tackle accusations of Russian interference in elections and referendums, a global pandemic, and also try to avoid getting caught in the crossfire of an increasingly tense transatlantic war of words between Moscow and Washington. In an exclusive interview at his residence in West London, he spoke to me about all of that and more. Let's begin with the recent Parliamentary Intelligence and Security Report, which says the UK is a target for Russian disinformation. Is Russia targeting Britain?
Well, my humble opinion about the whole report is very simple. It does not contain proofs of Russian interference, let it be referendum or elections or internal affairs. It means that Russia does not intervene into the affairs, although since there is no proof for that. What about targeting? Targeting is a more different things. I think it's a wrong perception. In the first place here, we defend our interests and we defend our policy. This is absolutely. NATO has taken a position as a leader of the Western world, a policy of deterrence and dialogue towards Russia. And London would like to be a leader in these efforts. There is 95% of deterrence and only 5% of dialogue. Of course, we have to do something with that. And I don't believe that the proper word here is targeting. We are just producing our own perception, our own views on the subjects.
But these stories keep emerging, don't they, of Russian hackers, either political or criminal, targeting Britain's security or secrets. Is the Russian government worried about all these stories that come out?
We are not worried about the content of these allegations because I haven't seen any proof to it. But we are worried about the other things. Since in the recent days in media here in Britain, a lot of mud have been thrown to our direction. It of course provokes little appetite in Moscow to develop dialogue.
Let me sort of ask you how Moscow regards relations between the UK and Russia. I mean, there has been some mud thrown, as you said. How can you repair relations? What is the state of relations?
The state of relations is difficult. Political contacts are close to be frozen. And this is very bad. I have seen some expression of intentions to review this policy, to restart a relationship in the political field, but all of this is being damped by this attack once and once again. I do not know whether it is change of policy here in London or it is just a coincidence of different subjects, Magnitsky law, then allegations about interference, then about hacking for coronavirus vaccine, which is nonsense, of course, because we have already developed that. We have developed at least 4 different coronavirus vaccines, and I hope that trials will be finished pretty soon, and pretty soon we are going to apply these vaccines on the population.
Will you share the secrets of those vaccines with the West?
It is not a problem at all. We are for cooperation among scientists. Your scientists in Oxford, by the way, they have very good relationship with our scientists. And before the lockdown and the end of the last year, many of your scientists, heads of the universities, under the auspices of Oxford University, has made a trip to Moscow. They have sent a lot of them, and scientific action and cooperation continues, I do believe, even after the lockdown and all these crises.
What do you think needs to be done at the moment to repair the damaged relations between London and Moscow?
Very simple thing that the government of London should be realistic. It should understand the benefits of cooperation and working with Russia, but not against Russia. Deterrence is the policy that has been, as I said, taken up against Russia, and of course it is not a cooperation which we have all envisaged.
Can I ask you now about relations, as a diplomat, you'll know, about relations between the US and Russia. What do you make of President Trump's approach to Russia?
These relations are much worse between US and Russia, I will say, because the Russian factor is the main game in the pre-election campaign. It's a kind of competition between Republicans and Democrats who will make more accusations about Russia. Now we have also a Chinese factor added to that, but still accusations of Russia now is a central piece of that. And it is very bad to the diplomatic relations, it is very bad to humanitarian and all of that. But it is different from the UK situation, because in the UK there is no electoral competition for the moment. That is why I simply do not understand why UK always in the recent weeks joins these accusational statements by Washington.
And who would Moscow prefer to see in the White House, President Trump or Joe Biden?
Well, this is a provoking question. We will work either with anyone who is going to win the elections, and we have no interest who is going to win.
I'm sure you do, but you're being very diplomatic.
Believe me, it is not the case. If you will ask me whom we are going to prefer here, conservatives or laborists, it's no matter for us. But we will just have to work with this or that person for the better, not for the worse, of course.
What is your take then on the decision by the US to withdraw from certain organizations, international organizations, and treaties too, including the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Accord? These are serious organizations.
This list is very long. So United States has proclaimed an idea that we all should work on the rules-based order. But if you will look into this more attentively, you will see that United States is trying to ruin this rules-based order by withdrawing from World Health Organization, by Paris Climate, by and many others. For instance, nuclear deal with Iran, withdrawing from it. A double state, Palestine and Israel construction in the Middle East. They invented something different, which is bad. They're withdrawing from INF Treaty. They're withdrawing from Open Skies Treaty. They are withdrawing from International Court of International Criminal Court, and from a very important organ, Geneva-based Human Rights Commission. It's a long list, and all these things, this is a construction of international order based on laws, on international law, which is now called, what is it, a rules-based order. In fact, this is an order which is established and ruled by the United States. So we do not understand this dualism. On the one hand, they are trying to establish a legal order. On the other hand, they are ruining it themselves.
Joe Biden is a favorite now in the polls to take over in the White House. Would he reverse some of these decisions, do you think?
Oh, hardly. The United States is a very big ship. To reverse the course of the ship, you need an enormous effort. You need to convince the equipage, you need to convince passengers that the ship should be reversed. So it's a long run.
One ship that can't be reversed is Britain leaving the European Union, Brexit. Do you think that will affect Russia's relationship with the UK, or indeed affect relationship with the EU and Europe?
Not seriously. Of course, not seriously. At the moment, and even not at the moment, a couple of years ago, United Kingdom was mainly guided by the principles of policy of the European Union. So it was, by the policy of the European Union, it's a common lowest denominator, of course, which is looking at different factors in this field. At the moment, Britain will be more independent, but the tendency which we are observing for the moment that UK policy is more and more linked to the policy of the United States. And this is worrying us a bit.
What, are you saying that Washington is controlling London diplomatically?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't go that much. But I also understand, if in the trade negotiations, Britain would like to have better positions, of course, then it has to submit certain interests to the policy which is being dictated from Washington.
But the US and UK traditionally are best friends and strongest allies.
Yes, and no, there is some criticism, of course, right now arised in different newspapers, but in any way, we do see a certain consolidation of English-speaking nations on a different basis, even on the basis of so-called Five Eyes intelligence union as well. No, this is another factor of development here.
The US State Department has called for financial penalties on investors and other business participants in the undersea pipeline that will carry natural gas from Russia to Germany. What is the Russian view towards what is effectively a threat? A financial
threat? It is not a threat to us, but it is more a threat
to the investors.
To investors, to European investors and allies. This is a commercial project which we even do not initiate it. It has been initiated by Germany. And imposing sanctions of it, extraterritorial sanctions, or as it is now going on, threatening companies which are involved into this is unscrupulous, really. This is an appropriate means of competition in the economic field.
But I think it's a sign, isn't it, of the US worrying that Germany is going to be over-reliant on Russian energy.
Well, it depends. This is a matter for Germany, of course, and other countries who do believe that this gas will be cheaper for them than the liquid gas imported from the United States. And here you have to choose the economic side and political side. But as I understand...
And often they're very closely linked.
You do not count money being guided only by political considerations. Of course, business is proceeding from economic reasons, and this is natural. But this handling of the allies and handling of Europe by Washington, for us, it is totally ununderstandable.
So you're saying that Washington is worried about the deal on economic grounds, not diplomatic or source of power grounds?
Opposite, absolutely. I mean absolutely opposite, because the importation of liquid gas from United States costs much more than a gas that is supplied by tubes from Russia.
Is the European market important for Russia in terms of power? Because Gazprom could well look to other markets, perhaps bigger markets like Asian markets.
And we're doing it, so it is pipelines under construction to China, different parts of China we are going to supply. This is an enormous market. But Europe, of course, will remain within the scope of our attention. It is about 20% of our trade. And we will continue to work with Europe. We will not abandon Europe. We are a European nation, and a lot of trade and relations continue to be in this field.
So coming back to Brexit, was Moscow disappointed at the UK voting to leave Europe?
We do not have any feeling about that. This is up to UK to decide whether it feels more comfortable outside of European Union and being on her own, on its own, I'm not sure what will be correct, or being inside the European Union. For us, it doesn't make a big difference. In economic terms, of course, there is an opportunity for Russia to develop more relationship in the field of trade and investment, although investment, even at the moment, are very big, I should say, from UK, and they continue to increase, even in the recent year, from UK to Russia. And some barriers which has been posed by European Union in our trade has already fallen, but we still do not see any activity of UK government who would like to establish good and proper economic terms with us, since there are political barriers to this.
You mentioned in your previous answer about China and power links to China. What is the state of relations between China and Russia?
I think it is partnership relations, and they're going pretty well. In economic terms, in terms of trade, in terms of partnership, even in strategic areas, I would say that we feel that we can be partners with China. And we have a long story of partnership and different relationships. So I think that we have a good future together.
I mean, there's been so much change during this pandemic, not least economically. The world is in a very difficult place economically. I think, was it 8 trillion is going to be wiped off GDP because of the pandemic. What role, is there a role for Russia going forward economically to try and solve some of these problems?
You know that in the beginning of pandemic, in April, I do believe, late March and April, there were a lot of articles and a lot of opinions how world is going to change after the pandemics. There were predictions that either it will be a new war or it will be overall brotherhood of man and end of the story, like it has been said before. But the more and more I'm becoming convinced that not much is going to change. Things will remain in place, with one exception, that all of us, including UK, US, Russia, and the others, suffered economically very seriously. It means that GDP is lost, and definitely we will have to spend coming years for a restoration of the past level of economics before going forward.
So we're all suffering, we're all in the same boat economically.
Absolutely.
We've all got to pay for COVID-19. But is it damaging countries' relationships? You hinted towards this earlier in terms of how the situation suddenly has changed in the last few months.
Yeah, in a way, yes, it is, because all of us would like, at least the policy of my country is cooperation with the others, cooperation in fighting coronavirus, cooperation in fighting economical disadvantages. But some still would like to make alliances here, as you see, some countries. They would like to be friend with some countries and to deter other countries, to divide, to make differences. So this is a detrimental policy, of course.
A lot of gloom and doom after 3-4 months into the pandemic. Is there, Mr. Ambassador, any light at the end of the tunnel? What cheers you up when you're out playing tennis?
What cheers me up is that the vaccine is being near to the studies on the vaccine, at least in my country, they are very close to happy end. And sooner or later, perhaps in the autumn, we are going to start to apply this action to the population, which is very important and which shows us that there is some light in the end of the tunnel.
That brings us to the end of another edition of The Agenda. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher and Spotify. You can also find us on CGTN Europe Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube.
The most interesting questions.
Are there other living beings beyond Earth?
Will man or machine be in charge?
Great question.
Always have more than one answer.
Well, hold on, let me just draw up a list.
And always come from more than one person.
That's where the credibility lies.
The concept of having a machinery which is alive and evolving didn't wait for us.
The end of inequality of incomes and wealth around the world, can you imagine how difficult that is at the moment to achieve?
Every episode, Stephen Cole, Murray Beveridge, and some of the brightest minds out there shed light on the answers to some of the most intriguing questions.
There are two ways of looking at this.
Machines can't really discriminate between civilian and military targets.
The Answers Project.
Maybe we need to just look at this in a bit more detail.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
The Answers Project, a new podcast from CGTN Europe.